With the NFL football season fast approaching, it's no surprise to see some cards finally starting to heat up on the sports card market. Now, on the pit in particular, one of the cards that's been moving a lot within the last couple of days is Julio Jones 2011 Topps Chrome rookie card. So, Julio Jones, the primary receiver for Matt Ryan for the Atlanta Falcons. Jones has had himself quite a good career so far. He's had 9 years as a starter so far. And his numbers are pretty good. His numbers are, pretty impressive, especially when you consider among active players. Especially even in an era with, so many deep passing threats, Julio Jones definitely an impressive player. Interestingly enough, though, when you compare him to other, Hall of Fame type talents over the years, his numbers look a little light currently. But there's definitely, he definitely has time. He definitely, has the potential to go another 3 to 5 years as a starter and have some, strong seasons to get him over that hump. And one thing I wanted to look at today was the Pro Football Reference Hall of Fame monitor. So this is something that we haven't brought up before. Um, in these videos, but I wanted to, with the NFL season fast approaching, I wanted to start talking a little bit about where some of these current players stand all time. So, Pro Football Reference recently came out with a feature called the Hall of Fame Monitor, and they separate it by position, so you can go by wide receivers, quarterbacks, running backs, whatnot. So in the hobby, typically quarterbacks tend to be the only real players that get a lot of attention in the hobby. But of course, occasionally other players do get attention. There are occasionally defensive players, especially Hall of Fame caliber defense. Today, specifically, we're talking about um, Jones 2011 Topps Chrome Raw card. And the reason we'll get into the reasons why that card is particularly popular, raw. But so for right now, we're going to take a look at. So this is the Hall of Fame monitor for wide receivers, and of course, topping that list is Jerry Rice. Of course, his record of 197 career touchdowns received is probably one that's never going to be broken. And of course, his receiving yard total 22,895, another record that's likely to stand for many, many years to come. People have actually uh, wondered if Julio Jones will ever even approach those numbers, and that's probably it's hard to say. But as you take a look at this list, you'll notice that a lot of these guys, there's only one guy, even in these top few, that is even still playing. The only one who's still playing in the top, uh, 15 or so is Larry Fitzgerald, and he's going into his final season with the Arizona Cardinals and Kyler Murray. So he's likely to, um, increase his career numbers. His career numbers are pretty impressive: 17,000 receiving yards and 120 TDs. So definitely a Hall of Famer. He's about as surefire Hall of Famer as you can get when it comes to wide receivers. So Fitzgerald definitely getting in the Hall of Fame. Reggie Wayne, a lot of people have expect that he will get in next year. He was eligible last year, but he didn't get in. And his numbers are pretty good. Over 14,000 receiving yards, 82 touchdowns. Of course, many of those coming from Peyton Manning. Torry Holt is another guy who's very likely to get in the Hall of Fame within the next couple of years. It's kind of surprising he's not in there already. His overall numbers don't look as impressive as some of these others, but he also only had 11 seasons as a starter. So over 30, almost 14,000 receiving yards and 74 touchdowns in an 11-year career is pretty good. Most people expect that he will get in the Hall of Fame. Of course, Paul Warfield had similar career numbers, and he had far fewer receiving yards. And of course, that was during a different era of football. And of course, Holt's teammate Isaac Bruce did get in the Hall of Fame last year, and his numbers, pretty impressive as well. Um, and right below him, you have Steve Smith. Of course, he retired a few years ago now. His numbers would suggest that he's like a likely Hall of Famer as well. So the way that the Hall of Fame monitor works is it gives these players a Hall of Fame M score, and it chips a number of first team Pro Bowl appearances, total Pro Bowl appearances, and years as a starter. It also uses a stat known as career AV, which is a stat that is similar to wins above replacement and in baseball and win shares in basketball. However, it's not an exact science. It's they give player seasons a certain score based on where they kind of stood. Um, I don't know the exact formula that goes into it, but the idea is that it's to give people an idea of comparatively where is this player rank all time. And of course, you know the quarterbacks are always going to top that list because quarterbacks gain more value than anyone else. But so when we look at Julio Jones, so you take a look at his career AV is he's been had 9 years as a starter so far. So 94 is a pretty good score for somebody who's been in the league for just 9 years. And so you would expect, when you look at all these other guys, the average Hall of Fame direction only is 97. So, it's very, very, he's very close to passing the bar. And of course, Julio Jones has an opportunity within, just the next year or so to, jump quite a bit in these career numbers. He has, the opportunity to pass, even Torry Holt on this list very quick. And as you can see, he's sandwiched in between Hall of Famers Charlie Taylor and, of course, Michael Irvin. So Michael Irvin actually only had a career 65 TDs. So his numbers. So Julio Jones, take a look. Irvin also had 11 years as a starter with 11,904 receiving yards with 65 touchdowns. And Julio Jones in 9 seasons has had 12,125 receiving yards and 57 touchdowns. So that's actually, when you think about it, that's actually kind of 7 touchdowns when you consider what kind of receiver he is. Um, but obviously, if he plays even just 2 or 3 more seasons as a starter, that number's probably going to end up in the 70s. And it's very realistic that he'll play another 4 or 5 years. And if he does, it's very likely that he could reach 80 touchdowns, and his receiving yards could certainly get into start approaching where Fitzgerald is at this point. So he has a pretty strong future chance at the Hall of Fame. And as I said, even just playing this year, he's likely to pass a couple of these other guys in total career value. So that's pretty incredible when you think about it. So definitely, Julio Jones looks like he's going to be a future Hall of Famer. He get there. So his rookie cards from that perspective definitely are a good investment. But as we've seen, wide receivers sometimes do take a bit to get into the Hall of Fame. So, if you're looking at this card from that perspective of him getting a Hall of Fame, you could be sitting on it for a while. But one thing I do want to point particular card is, well, first of all, there's actually 2 versions of this card. There's the ball above head version, which is a photo variation, which is much rarer than this version, which is known as the ball chest high version. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because um, because if you take a look at the pop report, there really aren't that many of these graded. This is his key rookie card, and there's only 205 total graded by PSA, with 73 of those being 10s and 97 of those being 9s, and then another 29 being 8s. So this costs an automatic 10, meaning that you want to buy a number of these, even near mint copies, pretty nice clean copies. There's only a 1 in 3 chance statistically of getting a 10, with a strong chance, a 50% chance of getting a 9, and then another a very realistic 15% or so chance of getting an 8. And of course, getting an 8 would be a disappointment. But so these aren't the easiest cards to grade. There is a 2011 Topps base version of this card, but the Chrome card, the reason I'm so interested in that, I think you should be interested in it, is that these are not automatic 10s. And so the 10s are actually very difficult to find. So I expect as his career goes on, this number is going to increase significantly. If you even look at Beckett doesn't really have that many. They only have 66 total, with 48 9.5s and 13 9s. So obviously they're a little bit less strict, considering that they have the 9.5 grade, whereas PSA does not. But on a card that has been graded a lot. So I do expect within the next probably 2 to 3 years, we're going to see a lot more of these get submitted to PSA and even BGS. I would personally be on the PSA side, simply because the 10s are going to be so much more expensive than the 9s. So yeah, I would definitely say this is a card worth buying in quantity. So, and the pit does have quite a few of these available. So around $6. So yeah, so definitely Julio Jones is definitely a good card, rookie card to look at going into the NFL season. Love to hear your thoughts on Julio Jones, and we'll probably be talking about Larry Fitzgerald in the near future as well. So hope you guys enjoyed. Happy collecting, everyone.